Alright, so this is going to be my ugliest video because I'm going to be doing the movement of the cards on screen and I won't always place them right and it won't look great. But this is a great little game you can play without actually triple triad cards. You can just use a regular deck of cards. You play on a 3x3 board, and the only rule is any card played next to another card flips it to your side. You can't flip a card away from your side. So one of you would use face up on all the cards, one of you would use face down. So one of you use the backs, whatever the back of the design is, say it's bicycle cards, and then the other one would be face up cards, so like the 6 of diamonds, the king of hearts, whatever. And you each get 5 cards, and you play them one at a time, going back and forth until 9 cards are played on the 3x3 board. And any time you play next to a card, you flip that card to your color if it is not your color. Next to means above, below, to the left of, to the right of, not diagonal. All stuff that will make sense to a triple triad player. Yeah, and I think it's an interesting game. So first I want to briefly compare to how triple triad works, right? Triple triad, we can have the rule combo. Combo will not be in effect here. Triple triad, you cannot always take a card. You know, the A on frog cannot necessarily take the A on choo choo. The 7 up on choo choo cannot always take the 9 down on frog, right? This is a game where you have more reliable ability to capture than you do in triple triad. There is less which cards do I need to hold on to because all cards are the same. So there are lots of reasons this is not a great analogy for the difficulty of actual triple triad, but I think it is a really good basis for formational play, and I used to tell people to play it all the time, and no one ever did. But I just thought it was such a good way to get a quick grasp on formational thought. And I've had some friends of mine who don't play triple triad try out this game and see how they figure out. And it takes a while to get a handle on because it's still a tricky game. You know, this is non-trivial. But I do think once you start noticing something, a lot of it becomes clear very quickly. So let's say blue starts here. And red decides to capture. Remember, anything next to something flips. So that card now becomes red. Now where should blue go? Well, blue has 3 captures, right? They could play in 5, the middle square, they could play in 4, or they could play in 3, right? There are 3 squares they can play in that have a capture. But the correct move is pretty clearly this one, because it secures the card in 1, right? The card in 1 can never be handled again. Now blue is essentially up a card. And even though the score is 5-5, blue has 5 cards, red has 5 cards, blue has the only secure card. And you'll notice if you look at this position, red can't even secure a card in reply. They could go in 5 and capture the card in 4. They could go in 7 and capture the card in 4. But none of these moves secure. And both are very quickly losing. For instance, let's say that we go in 7. And we flip the card in 4. Well, now blue not only has a double capture, flipping these 2 cards, but even better, they have a second secured card, right? Blue now leads 2 secured cards to 0. Okay, so red can secure their first card, and you can pause and think about how could red secure a card, but the answer is they could in 2 different squares. They could secure 2 from 3, or they could secure 7 from 8. Let's go with 2 from 3. Both moves are equal. Now, blue has lots of moves that win. In fact, every move wins. Here, secures the card in 3. Here, secures the card in 7. And here, sets up the last card to capture anything back that's taken and flip 1 extra card enough to win. So any move here wins. And blue wins by force. And it was a pretty straightforward win as they go, right? Red captured blue's opener. And all blue had to do, sorry for the hideous placement of the cards now, all blue had to do, blue played the opener, red captured, blue recaptured, and it was very straightforward from there. Blue secured the first card and had a straightforward advantage, and the key is just securing, it's not capturing. You do not care in this game about capturing a card that can be flipped back at a later date. Why is that? Well, let's say blue started here, oops, did not mean to turn you upside down. Blue starts here, and red captures from beneath. Now, if blue never plays next to this card again, red will play next to it at some point and will flip it then. So it doesn't matter that they flipped it now because they would go on to flip it later. If blue does play next to it, then they will flip it then, and it doesn't matter that red flipped it now. And except for secured squares, capturing cards just doesn't matter, because someone will play next to the card later, and whoever does is going to be the person that captures it at that point. So I think that's a useful kind of first understanding of the game, is captures just do not matter. And in real triple triad, captures matter. It's not only about securing, but in this game, capturing, unless it secures, unless it locks in a card, just makes no difference whatsoever. Another key point is that you can secure yourself. I'm just throwing cards in squares. Let's say red played here. Blue can play here, and it doesn't secure any of the 3 cards it potentially flips, but it is itself secure, and that counts as securing a card. Because you just want the most locked-in cards you can get. So, okay. Blue plays their corner starter. Red now knows, if I take, this will be difficult. So where does red play next? Well, it doesn't seem obvious that there's a reason to play in other squares, right? Taking did something, other moves do not. But actually, other moves are just much more complicated. For instance, any move will start showing us spatial dynamics, but let's say red plays here, in the opposite corner. Now, if blue goes here, red's going to be first to secure. If blue goes here, red again is going to be first to secure. If blue goes in 6 or 8, the same thing happens, right? Red is going to be first to secure. And of course, they want to go here and reply, not here, because this just captures, that's meaningless. This just captures, that's meaningless. This also captures. But instead, they want to go in 6, which secures the card in 9. Now, there's slight delay on the recording, so it's possible the things I say come before you actually see the square I mean. And I'm sorry about that, if that's a problem. But you can see that 6 would be the key square here. So blue does not want to play in 2, 4, 6, or 8. But which of 3, 5, or 7? Turns out all of them are fine. The key to this game is not capturing, it's securing. And when you cannot capture, it is using space to not give the opponent any securings either. So for instance, let's say we play in 5. Now red has the same problem blue did. If they go in 2, 4, 6, or 8, then blue will have an obvious securing move in response. For instance, if they go in 2, capturing both 1 and 5, blue recaptures both and has the only secure card. This is called a queue structure. You can see why this would look like a queue with how the cards are lined up, and blue would be winning. It turns out, let's flip the 2 cards. Sorry, this is ugly. It turns out blue would also be winning with a move here, setting up what is called an S or a Z, depending on its orientation. This one would be a Z, because it looks kind of like a Z. That would be a winning move too. We don't need to go into that, but you can definitely explore it on your own. Again, this is very easy to explore with just a deck of cards. And you can mess around with that. So where does blue go if they don't capture? Well, they have to go in 3 or 7. Let's say they go in 3. Now, if blue goes in 2, they finally have a move that secures. It secures itself. But in reply, red plays a move here and secures the card in 3 and itself. So red will secure 2 in reply, while blue only secures 1, and that will be enough for red to tie. So the correct move 7, setting up what's called an X formation. These are very cleverly named formations, as I'm sure you can tell. And here, red will have all moves for red secure 1 card itself, but any blue move in reply, except here, which is a mistake, don't play an 8 here, but here we'll secure 2 cards, itself and the card in 1, and then red will play somewhere else and again secure 2 cards, and blue will respond by securing 3, and that's enough to win. So the X formation is going to win. All these formations are going to win when blue gets them in favorable ways, which they will repeatedly here. Just trying to put the cards back in order so they don't go over each other wrong. Yep, did it. Nice. Very proud of myself. So against a move in 9, the winning moves for blue are going to be in 3 or 7 or 5. Any move that does not give red securing moves. There's one critical line that's a little tricky, which is here, here. So red has not secured a card yet, and blue can secure a card. And so the question is, where should blue play? And blue has 3 moves that secure a card, right? They can play in 4, they can play in 5, they can play in 6. And this is where, the principle of play the move that secures a card is very good, but it's also play the move that denies the opponent the most secure cards next turn. And that's going to be the key to solving this one. Feel free to pause and think about it. So if we played in 4, we'd secure the card in 7. Move this out of the way. But they'd play in 5 and secure both the cards in 4 and the card in 8, right? They'd secure 2 cards to our 1. If we played in 5, we secure the card in 8, but they play in 4, and again they secure 2 to our 1. They secure itself, and they secure the card in 7. So the key is to play in 6 here, securing the card in 9, and they can only secure 1 in reply. And this is just the key understanding of the game is, how can I secure as many as I can and stop them from securing? So this structure is actually pretty tricky. This is one of Red's better tries to get a tie in this game. It is a forced win for Blue, is because the win here for Blue is not obvious, and a lot of quite good triple triad players would assume you'd play here. And that's just not correct. The move is here. So, going back to the beginning, let's try a different move for Red. Oops, did not order them properly this time. All right, Blue goes here, and Red goes in 5. Now Blue can go here, and we've seen this before, and we know this is a Blue win. So I just want to identify that this and this are also Blue wins. And that makes sense to us, it should, because neither of these moves allow Red any secured squares. If Red goes here or here, Blue plays in the other of those 2 squares, and captures it and secures both. If Red plays here, Blue can play in 8, or in 4, but probably in 8, and set up a Q. A Q works no matter the orientation. You can spin it around any which way and it's still a Q. If Red plays here, Blue can play in this square and is first to secure. This is called a T. This isn't the orientation where it's obvious it looks like a T, but you can turn it in your head. And if they play here, Blue again has a T by capturing and securing that card in 6. So against a center play, Blue has 3 different winning moves. But any of here allows a secure move in 4. Here allows a secure move in either 2 or 7. Red could play a secure move here. They don't have to capture the starter. Here is the same but opposite, and the same but opposite to the far corner. And so Blue has 3 wins. 6, 8, 9. Okay, where else can Red try? Well, Red could try a distant side. And here Blue can play in 5. And that gets exactly the same thing we just saw. It will likely lead to a T or a Q, and that will prove to be winning. Blue actually has one other winning move. So if you want to pause and think, where's Blue's other winning move? Okay, so it's not here, because they capture us from 2 and secure us. It's not 9, because they capture us from 8 and secure us. It's not 2, because they go in 4 or 3. Either one secures a card, one secures itself, one secures the card in 1. So this secures itself, this takes the card in 1. It's not 4, because they go in 2 and secure the card in 1. It's 7, the only move that doesn't give them a secure square. And I think this is just like such a cool way of starting to see the complication of triple triad, of that it's this formational game, but it's about space, right? Sometimes the cards all end up next to each other, that happens quite a lot. But a lot of times there's this kind of distance to the plays, and the distance makes sense as soon as you understand, yes, if a card is weak from 2 sides, as soon as I block it from 1, the other can secure it from the other. And so the move in 7 and 5 are the only 2 winning moves here. Oops, what's happening? Okay, there we go. And the last play is here. And when I used to play the rule set that was closest to this rule set in actual triple triad, opponents would screw up against this move all the time. They'd go, yes, I play in between, I block, I capture your card, I'm feeling good. That's the wrong thing. But of course, this is terrible, and we should know this is terrible. It secures nothing. Capturing does not matter. And we now can be first to secure as the second turn player in either 6, 5, or 4. In actual games, let me just say, 4 and 6 are quite often better moves than 5. And this is in fact already very good for the red player. Oops, that shouldn't go under. What did I do? I don't know. We'll move that out of the way. That's because this was over. Yeah, okay, figured it out. Sorry. I'm very bad with graphics programs. So, as might be readily apparent. And here, blue can already lose. This game is a forced win for blue if they play well. But if they go here, again, not securing anything, red will double secure. They now have 3 secured, blue 0, and that is enough to win. So these L formations, this is called an L. Again, rotate it in your head until it looks like an L, and you'll see why it's called an L, are very good for red, because red is the first to have secured a card. So where should blue go instead? Because they should not go in 2. Well, we don't want to do any move that gives up a securing move, and so if you look a bit, you'll quickly realize the only moves that don't are 7, 8, and 9. And that's where blue should go. And by playing there, blue continues to win. We've already seen the formation after 7 or 9, the 3 corners setup, and the trickiest line was if blue goes here, or red goes here. I could flip the cards, but I don't need to. It's not secured, so it actually doesn't matter who controls each card at this point because none of them are secured. Blue's only winning move is, do you remember, or can you figure it out? Should blue play in 2, should they play in 5, or should they play in 8? The answer is they should play in 8, because 8 is the one that secures a card and only concedes 1 securing in reply. If we go in 5, they double secure 2 and 3. If we go in 2, they double secure the cards in 2 and 6. So the only move that secures something and doesn't give them more securings than we have is 8. And that's basically the game. And that's the game solved. The game is not that tricky to solve. I want to quickly go over that other starting moves are winning as well. So if blue starts in 2, we end up in mostly the same formations. If red goes in 1 or 3, we just capture their card, not our own, but theirs, because we need to secure, and we're winning, and it's the same as with a corner starter being captured by an adjacent square. If they go in a far corner, we have 2 winning moves. Can you find them, or do you remember them? The moves are in 5 and 7. Again, the key is do not let them secure. If they go in 5, this one's a little new. We've never had this exact setup before, but it should be pretty quick to figure out where the wins will be. The wins are in 7, 8, and 9, the only moves that do not concede securing moves. Of course, a move in, say, 6 concedes a secure square in 3. And finally, if they go in the far side, we only have 1 winning move here, actually, but it's good enough, and it is 5. The only move that, again, does not concede a secure reply. I think that's it for side starters, and center starter also works. If they reply with a corner, we can reply, we've seen this before, with a corner starter, we can reply in 6, we can go in 8, or we can go in 9. And if they play a side starter, we can again, by going far away from them in 7, 8, or 9, just like with sides, we win by force. So I think this is a kind of cool game to figure out, because I've seen, very smart people take a while to get a grasp on it and play moves that just value captures more than securings. And I haven't really shown that or pitched that, so it might seem, oh, that's something obvious not to do. But it really, you'll see people, people will repeatedly capture the starter, or if you play here, they'll always go in that in-between square and not understand where they're going wrong. Because they captured, and capturing seems useful. And it takes a deeper understanding to understand space. So what I'm going to do in the coming series is develop, I think, a pretty decent open player. So not on this rule set at all, very different, actual triple triad, but who comes from these understandings that we want to secure whenever possible. And this player's bias will always be towards securing, always be towards setting up ways to secure. And that's going to be the kind of key basis for the intermediate open level play we build up. And I really like this minigame. Again, you can just play it with a deck of cards. It's nice to play around with. I think I went over all the main scenarios, but of course I didn't play the whole games out, and playing the whole games out is very telling. Again, the key is just going to be secure at every opportunity, and concede as little secure moves, a few secure moves as you can, and you'll go far. But it's a fun game to play. You can play it against yourself, you can play it against other people, and I think it's genuinely really useful to becoming a better triple triad player.